Right. So that's just the end of bag one. I do have a bone to pick here, though, Lego group. So that isn't bag one. I say it's not bag one because I had to use items from here and here in order to complete the sort of basic infrastructure of the Batmobile. I mean, Lego's always a bit of an intelligence test, but those bags that I just pointed to are not labelled. I think they've got sort of QR codes on them, but they don't have numbers on them. So there's nothing to indicate that they've got pieces that you also need for bag one completion in them. That's, I don't know, I can't remember if that's ever particularly happened to me before. Another interesting thing I've noticed, which again I don't recall, but it has been a while since I did a set because my son's been doing his own of late, or I've been doing mine from scratch from different pieces without instructions. But they're highlighting all the pieces that you need to sort of move onto the model with a little sort of thin red outline. I don't remember that being a thing before. That may just be me misremembering. I noticed that they're still making moves in the little sort of windowed instruction areas that they don't indicate. Sometimes they put an arrow on to show you which technic hole you're supposed to put the pin into, but other times they don't and it's kind of already there and you have to notice that to get it right. So that's still a thing, which I find quite comforting, because it just means you have to keep your wits about you. And speaking of keeping your wits about you, I'm going to have a cup of tea now, because I'm probably starting to make sort of single bit errors, and I've got 20 odd bags left yet. I'm not sure I'm going to do this in a day, so I'm going to have a cup of tea and a biscuit, and then I shall rejoin the battle. Okay, bye for now. Right, end of bag two. Wow, this is quite funny, because remember I was saying about that Technic car? That was the last really big Technic set that I built. That was my last Lego set as a T-Fol. Well, this is giving me flashbacks basically, because what we've ended up with now is this terrific sort of underspine for the Batmobile, but now it's got this sort of technically rigged steering system, which I presumably for the front of the Batmobile. So you can see if I move that backwards and forwards, the wheels are going to turn left and right, and that's clearly the modern day equivalent of the steering that I had in the Technic car of years gone by. So yeah, very cool. Strange thing to put together that, because it was really wobbly, technical term, until the final couple of pieces went on it, and obviously now it's more stable and it's clicked into place in the sort of, this is the skeleton, the frame, if you like. It's going to be big. It's going to be really big, but yeah, good value though. I think, when you consider that that's only 2 bags out of 20 odd, that's good. Nothing too badly for time, but I seriously doubt I'm going to be able to do this in an afternoon. I'll see how it goes. Alright, come back to you after the next bag. So that's the end of bag 3, and by my reckoning, by the steps, I think I'm about 20% of the way through the build as a whole. So as you can see, it's edging into more sort of traditional plate and brick build sort of territory, because that's the sort of the front bumpers, corners of the Batmobile building up there. But the Technic elements fascinate me, because this is obviously where it's deriving its strength from. Can you see all these sort of the vertical Technic struts, for want of a better description? I've just pinned some of those into the front there, into horizontal ones. There's a sort of vertical, horizontal lattice work of them now. And it's fascinating how these guys managed to design all this. And in the middle of all that, of course, is the steering mechanism, with enough clearance to move around and so on. So, I mean, you've got to hand it to these guys. They can't half design stuff. It's incredible, really. Never ceases to impress me how it all sort of comes together. And in fact, I mean, these days a lot of sets seem to start with sort of quasi Technic sort of work underneath them. I don't know if they do it for weight saving, because of course a lot of it is kind of fresh air when it's Technic bricks with the holes through and so on, but it clearly gives the sets a lot of rigidity and a lot of strength, which they need, because I know from doing my my Eagle Lego ideas, I did sort of ponder whether or not I could get any technique into that to try and strengthen it. And in fact, the struts that hold the landing pods on are Technic, simply because I thought I was trying to save a little bit of weight where I could, because the front and the back ends are so heavy that I thought it would break the spine of it if I wasn't careful. But it'd be fascinating to see it designed by people who actually know what they're doing. But this is really interesting for me because putting together the front elements here, there are lots and lots of very clever little sort of interlocking pieces with slopes and curves and angles, and I had to do a bit of that with my Eagle's cockpit to try and get it looking fairly sort of smooth and contiguous. And they're doing the same sort of thing here, so it's quite interesting because of course this is a recreation of an existing physical model that was never designed in Lego in the first place, and so is the Eagle. So trying to sort of make the two meet so they look right, but obviously conform to legitimate Lego building standards is quite an interesting challenge. And I think you have to go up to this sort of scale to actually be able to do it in a convincing fashion, unless you're very, very lucky. So I'm trying to bear in mind the techniques that I'm seeing here in case I can apply them elsewhere down the line, but I don't have any other vehicles really planned at the moment for ideas. But anyway, so yeah, progress of a sort. I might just stop for some food, so I'll catch you when I've done the next bag. Cheers. Okay, that is bag 4 done. Just sort of more building up of the nose really. We've got the wheel arches sorted out in place now, they're ready to go. Yeah, it's just sort of more putting more sort of skin on the bones now, I guess. That's the sort of stage we're at. I am actually going to eat now, honestly I am, and then I will come back to it. So I'm on step 134, so not really sort of vastly further on than we were before, but it's looking more like a Batmobile now, which is nice. Okay, catch you on the next bag. That's the end of bag 5, and we've now got a steering wheel on the Batmobile and a central console and what looks like a sort of drive shaft and some, maybe even an engine block. I thought what I'm finding funny about this, in various places there are these accents of very, very Joker green. I don't know if someone just did that for a little giggle. If some purple comes into it, then I'll really start laughing with them. I mean, there's no real reason for using green in there that I can think of, other than the fact that it distinguishes it from everything else, which is very, very dark. But yeah, not going too badly. I'm going to be calling it a night for tonight before too much longer. But in terms of bags, I'm probably going to aim to get 25% of the way through it, and we'll see where that carries me in the overall instructions. So I'll come back to you shortly. And that's bag 6 done. I have a confession here that I've only just realised that remember those random bags that I had at the start? There is actually an instruction on some of the bags that clearly illustrates the fact that they need extra parts as well as the bag for that particular stage of construction. So my bad Lego, the instruction was there, it's just not an obvious instruction because it looks like it's just sort of saying this is the next bag, but actually it's saying this is the next bag plus these other bits that you need to do it. So I get it now, I'm on the same page. So this is the end of bag 6, so I'm going to call it a night for tonight because it's getting chilly in here. But we now have functioning chain guns, which I will demonstrate. I don't know if you'll be able to see from this distance, but it just requires a little twist there and that pop the chain guns. Not sure about the clearance over the bonnet. I must admit that's as far as they go. They seem to be pretty hard locked like that. And then obviously you just twist again in the opposite direction they come down. So I don't know exactly how they're triggered yet. Dare say I'll find that out in due course. It's a nice little mechanism. It's very Technic, but it's kind of the basic level Technic stuff that they put into, you know, things of this size. So yeah, going alright so far. I've only redone it for a few hours today. I'm hoping if I crack on tomorrow, I'll be able to get it all done. But that might be overly optimistic. I'll see. Alright, cheers for now. Catch you on the next bag. Morning all. Bag 7 down. Got some little grappling hook action going on now for those sharp corner turns you want to do. Yeah, so moving on to bag 8. See you shortly. That's bag 8 down. Looks like bag 9 is going to have Vicky Vale in it, so that's sweet. Yeah, it's just incredible how they design these things. I have no idea how they managed to do this so that it comes together as a whole. Because now I've got sort of more structural integrity in the midsection. I've just added sort of piping onto the outside that was dependent on Technic pins that I put in bags ago. It's just phenomenal. I mean, there must be some sort of incredible teaching that they do in the Lego group to, you know, I guess they've got some sort of engineering background to start out with, but just planning this, that it all comes together and doing it in a particular way as well, because they've got to decide how. There must be lots of different ways you could do this. You see, if it were me, everything would be like solid brick and there'd be no air gaps or anything like that, so it'd be hopelessly heavy. So it's really fascinating how this all comes together. You've got to give them credit. It's a real skill. Right, okay, I better crack on, otherwise I'm going to run out of day again. See you next time. Well, that's bag 9 down, and that was giving me a little bit of pause for thought, that one, because I misapplied 2 pieces on the sort of the blind side, on this side of the build, because of course the manual only shows one static side, which is the other side, so you tend to get stuff right on that side, but then you have to mirror it on the other side because you can't really see it in the manual. And I just added an extra layer because there were 2 other parts of the same sort, and I think I must have forgotten that I'd already done that step, so I just had to unpick it a touch. I was lucky, I got away with it, but that could have been interesting. Just goes to show you really do need to keep your focus, otherwise you can cause yourself some difficulties. I thought I'd done something wrong with these pieces here on the angle initially, but it turned out there was just a way to put it in so that it wouldn't sort of get upset with the placement of other pieces around it. It's very clever what they're doing to get the various angles right. So there's use of hinges and the various sloped and curved bricks, all sorts of lovely sort of detailing going on to build it all up layer by layer. So what you can see now a little bit more so, I think, is that there's a sort of a black shell, if you like, going on around the Technic infrastructure in the centre, which is very, very clever. It's just, as I say, I've said this before, but it is phenomenal, the sort of depth of thinking required to make sure that everything's got enough space to do what it needs to do and not get in the way of anything else. I mean, it's just bonkers. Incredible. So yeah, and I've got Vicky Vale's up and running now as well, so she's got her camera, which is a nice little piece. I've not seen one of those before. Yeah, and her wig's really impressive as well, actually. It's good. Okay, so I'm going to have a little break now, and then I'm going to crack on with bag 10. The bag pile is decreasing somewhat. There's still a fair amount to go. Alright then, catch you in the next one. Alright, that's bag 10 done and dusted. So we've now got the intakes are now formed on the sides of the Batmobile. Very cleverly done. It's just lots and lots of tail fins, basically. A whole stack of them, in fact. So I laughed when as I put that together, because it's a delightfully simple way to get a nice stack of horizontal edges, basically. Very, very nice. And I suppose when you've got infinite parts to play with at your disposal, then this is the sort of thing that you can easily do. It's nice to see them sort of how they're attaching things in different planes. So they're being sort of attached on a sort of put in a, not in a sort of perpendicular fashion to how you might expect. But I do that on some of my builds as well to try and get the curves and such like going on. So it's quite nice to see that being used as a technique in a real set, because I always feel like it's a bit of a kludge, but actually I think it's clearly perfectly legitimate, or else they wouldn't make the parts to allow you to do it, of course. So I shall crack on to bag 11. See you shortly. That's bag 11 down. Moving on to bag 12, which will be around about the halfway point. I have actually passed the halfway point in instructions now. So I'm on 308 and there are 609, I think, of the main build. So that's kind of the halfway point, and she's looking good. Lots more sort of skin on the bones now, and all the vertical Technic beams like these are now latched into horizontal Technic beams. So I think structurally now she's probably much more sound than she was. It's very clever how some of those work as well, because they just get you to push the Technic pins into the beams, then you put them on, and then they tell you to push them back out of the beams to lock into the vertical beams. So it's very clever how they've done that, so that it all sort of interlocks and just forms that sort of skeletal infrastructure and reinforces it as a build. Because at the end of the day, things got to hang together, and if it's going to move around, you don't want it falling to pieces, do you? So they've got that to try and bear in mind as well. Beyond the sheer sort of size and display ability of it, if it's a car at the end of the day, so if people are going to move it around, it's going to hang together. So yeah, so interesting, really interesting seeing how it's all coming together. Very satisfying build. Lots of little mini builds in it as well, which is really nice. So just when you've done a really sort of big kind of complex Technic bit, you'll suddenly go back to just using standard sort of system pieces again, which is quite nice. It ebbs and flows like that. It's really nice. Okay, on with the next. So that's the end of bag 12, and that bag was really all about the cockpit, as it turned out. Lots of nice reclining movable seats here now. Chewed through most of the stickers that were left on the sticker sheet for the consoles in front and around the driver's seat, obviously as per the movie. And we've got a nice sort of central console bit with the various levers and so on to apply power. So yeah, it was really busy little pack actually. I wasn't really sort of anticipating quite so many separate individual builds inside one bag, but that was the sort of the base of the seats and the backs of the seats and the center console, and there's sort of a front console at his sort of eye level with various readouts and so on it. So yeah, that was quite an entertaining little bag, that bag 12. So I'm guessing we're going to move on to the back end of it at some point fairly soon now, because that's the only bit of the infrastructure that's really completely bare, apart from obviously the sort of the top side of it at the moment. So I'm going to take a short break and then crack on. Cheers. So that's the unlucky bag done. So we're past the halfway point now, by a whole bag actually. I'm not sure I mentioned that last time, but yeah. So on to bag 14 of 24 now. We're starting to get the rear sorted out, and we've got wheel mounting points now at the back as well. So yeah, doing pretty well now, and be interesting to see how they build up the final sort of aft section and then cover up the front as well. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay, moving on. That's the end of bag 14, and we've got the rear wheel arches and some more of the sort of the rear bumper work sorted out now. So she's looking a lot more like a proper Batmobile now. So that's all good. And I think that looks like the wheels might be the next things to go on actually. So I'm going to delve into pack 15 in due course. Not sure how much further I'm going to get tonight now, but see how I get on. Alright, cheers. That's bag 15 done, so we've got a lovely, smooth, shiny curve going right over the top of the front wheels and down into the nose and these sort of partially recessed headlights. Albeit they've got stickers on, which I really hate. Not that I hate stickers, I just hate putting stickers on because I'm really bad at it. Yeah. But anyway, they're small stickers and you can't really see them, it's fine. So, I remember seeing this in a Lego store. I think it might have been in a Leeds store. And just thinking to myself, the curves on it were just absolutely glorious. And I think when I was doing my Bluebird idea that didn't get anywhere near basically, but that had some times when I use curves on it as well, and so I really like the curved pieces, these modern curved pieces which you didn't used to get back in my day when I was doing classic space. In fact, that's another thing that this just reminded me of, because there are some transparent yellow pieces. They take me right back to classic space days when I used to get transparent yellow canopies all the time. I love them. I think you can get them in some of the sort of the retro Lego movie classic space sets. Even sort of the ones for quite young kids. That always makes me smile when I see those. I think they're sort of 6x3. And I always used to put my astronauts underneath those when I was little. So enough of the nostalgia. Let's get on to bag 16. So that's bag 16 done, and you should be able to see now that the front of the Batmobile is pretty much jet black, and yet strangely very shiny with it. It's just such a beautiful design, both this version and the original. I mean, it is just epic. Such a terrific set, and it's quite funny as well. I think they must have gone quite ironically for like the brightest colours they could find to do some of the interior pieces, because they knew it was all going to get hidden away like this, and they just wanted to have a little bit of contrast for the people building it, so they didn't see black forever after. Because I think it would have been really difficult to distinguish in the instructions what on earth was going on if they hadn't used slightly varied colours. One thing I did notice this briefly when I was going through though is that, ironically, when they highlight things in red to show that that's where you need to place them, of course it doesn't work for the red pieces. So those you really have to struggle and squint at to figure out where they go. That's the only downside of that particular system otherwise. I'm going to try and finish the actual Batmobile tonight. I might have to do the stand another time, realistically. But it's been really nice to have a chance to sort of tackle this in one weekend and keep the flow going, because it's a really lovely experience doing this. I don't think it's the most straightforward set, but I don't think it's kind of scary either. And I'll do a sort of overall review of it as a separate video at the end of it all, I think, when I've gathered my thoughts. Okay, I'm going to move on now. So that's the end of bag 17, and it's all gone swimmingly. The canopy's on over the cockpit now, but I do have a slight niggle, I know, about the cockpit canopy. Reason being, this piece here, and I'll add a still to demonstrate this, this square tile in the middle there is not glossy shiny like all the other black tiles or curved pieces are. I don't know why that is. I've come across that before somewhere. I can't quite think where, but I must have used I think I once used a big grey tile like that in another set and thought it was slightly odd because it feels different to the touch as well. You see, these ones are very, very smooth. This feels rougher, and I think that's why it's not as shiny. And I don't know why, and it's a shame because obviously pretty much everything else is that shiny. The only exceptions are the sloped pieces here. So the slopes have that same sort of slightly rough texture to them. So I suppose in fairness, it's not the only thing, but because it's quite a big piece, and it's right next to another piece, which is about half the size, which has some studs, but which is shiny, you sort of notice the difference, or I did anyway. I've tweeted Lego to ask them about that, and I'll see if they come back with a response, and if they do, obviously I will pass it on in my possibly next, maybe in my review video ultimately, depending on if they respond and when. So I might just try one more bag tonight, see how far I get, but I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close. So I'll catch up with you again. Cheers for now. Bye. Just finished bag 18, so I'm a couple of days later, unexpectedly. A bit more detail on the back of the cockpit, and a reminder to myself not to do this when I'm tired, because I got to the end of the bag and discovered that I had one 2x3 black plate left. And that seems like a strange piece to have had left over, and then I discovered that there was indeed an instruction to put it somewhere, which I had overlooked because I'm tired. And that's why I was fumbling with pieces. This is why you should never, ever, ever, ever try and build Lego when you've had a drink. Sadly, I haven't had a drink, but I think the effects will probably be similarly disadvantageous. So there you go. Okay, on with the next, once this season of Fortnite is finished, or something, I'm told. See you in a bit. So that's bag 19 complete. You still see we've got quite a bit of the rear is still exposed internally, but we've got a nice little sort of panelling effect on the side now, which was cleverly done on their part. Yeah, more very, very clever use of angles and angled pieces to get the angles and make them sort of fit flush and steady. We've pretty much covered up all the sort of innards on the sides now. And it's interesting because they've been quite brave and they've left it studded in places rather than completely smooth, at least at this point. We'll see how that turns out. And I'm going to try and crack on and finish it, I think, because I've got what, four construction bags remaining, plus another maybe, which I suspect might be the turntable. So I shall just keep going, I think. Cheers for now. Bag 20, locked and loaded. More very clever detail on the back. And it looks like everything's kind of fixed in place, but some of that's actually movable, and it's held on by a single Technic pin. It's impressive. It's very, very clever. And that's how they're working all the angles and stuff out. It's very, very clever. I'm going to try and, it's pretty late, but I'm going to try and push on because I'm that close. I might as well try and break the back of it now, I think. And I've only got one really big sticker left as well, so that's also a bonus. I really hate stickers. I've mentioned this, haven't I? Alright, let's go. That's bag 21 done. It's so clever. There's a sort of ball joint used to attach that entire rear boot trunk, possibly for American section, with the venting down either side of it. And I always think of sort of joints and pins as almost sort of allowing for movement more so, but here it's all about achieving the angles that they need. So there's no real sort of movement in a lot of the places where they've used hinged parts and so on. It's all just about getting the curves and the slopes and so on that they need to achieve the overall desired look of the Batmobile. It's just so cleverly done. So 3 bags left, one of which I think is the sort of swivel that it can sit on. So yeah, interested to see what's actually left. The fins at the back actually. Yeah, it'll be the fins. Okay, I'm going to crack on. So that's bag 22 done, and the fins done. So it looks like tyres on next, and I'm not quite sure whether or not there's anything else to actually do on the actual Batmobile itself. My son was asking if there were going to be covers on the chain guns, and to which I wasn't quite sure, but yeah, maybe. So 20 to midnight, entirely appropriate, I think, for a Batmobile build session somehow, isn't it? Anyway, better crack on. So, there she is. That's not the entire set. That takes us to the end of bag 23. But this is it for the Batmobile proper, but not for the actual set as a whole, because it just keeps on going. So there's one more bag left, and that's going to produce a turntable for the Batmobile and the plaque, and I believe, of course, naturally, the last laugh goes to the Joker because he's in the last bag. It's entirely appropriate somehow. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it here for tonight. I finished it pretty much on the stroke of midnight, which I think is entirely appropriate because that's probably about the time that Batman needs to go to work. So tomorrow night I will come back and do the last finishing touches, and then I'll try and show it off to you a little bit. And I think I might do a little recap now of the set as a whole, just because I'm sort of in the mood and I think it will just polish things off quite nicely for tonight. So I will leave you there and come back to you for the conclusion later. And there we have it. That's bag 24 complete. I haven't put the Batmobile onto its stand because I'm not quite sure where and how I'm going to display it just yet. I mean, it's like oversight on my part. But there you can see the minifigures on their separate stand. And you can see just how big the car is when you see the minifigures in front of it. I mean, it's nowhere near minifig scale. Rather lovely thick manual as well, a single booklet, which is very unusual for a build this big. And I've just read through the instruction at the front as well, which is really nice, and you can tell the amount of love and care that's gone into the design of this thing, as you might expect. And yeah, so that's it. Job's a good one. My lad rather likes it, he wants to play with it as a toy. I've tried to explain it's a model really, but I'm sure he's going to have a go at some point. We'll see if it survives that experience. But yeah, really enjoy doing this build. Lot of, it takes a fair amount of dedication to get it done. There's no two ways about it. 3,300 pieces and 3.5 kilograms of Lego apparently. So there you have it. So now I better go and edit some videos together and get this up on YouTube for you to have a look at. Otherwise you'll never hear this. There you go. So as I say, if you want to ask me anything, ask me questions in the comments and I'll try and answer it, and perhaps you'll be able to pick one of these up if you haven't already. I do have some more bat related sets on their way, or a set on its way. Hasn't arrived as yet. I think it's on back order at the moment, but I might tackle that one after Christmas if you enjoyed this one. So thanks for watching these. I hope you've enjoyed it. All the best. See you soon.